Good afternoon, everybody. I'm back today to talk about maternal mortality rates. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe just in case you want to see this keep going, or, just give me some motivation to keep talking about topics. And as always, please leave some comments for ideas of next discussions, what you want to hear about, anything along those lines. So, to get started today, we are going to start with the definition of a maternal death, because this is where all of the studies come off of. The World Health Organization defines a maternal death as the death of a woman while pregnant or within 42 days of termination of pregnancy, irrespective of the duration and the site of the pregnancy, from any cause related to or aggravated by the pregnancy or its management, but not from accidental or incidental causes. So basically, maternal mortality rates, the number of maternal deaths per 100,000 live births, are shown in this specific report from 2023. And they are, they're grouped by age, race, and origin. So, let's get into it. So right now, in 2023, it showed that the maternal death rate was 18.6 per every 100,000 live births. And that's a pretty substantial number, in my opinion. Women have been giving birth since the dawn of time. It's how humanity has gotten to the point that we're at right now, with all the people in the world. And yet we still have a number like that when it comes to childbirth, an everyday thing. And that, to me, is absolutely terrifying. So I decided to look into it a little bit, or a lot, depending on how you want to look at it. So one of the biggest things that caught my attention with this particular issue is, if you look here, and I did start doing some deeper research into this, more than 80% of pregnancy-related deaths are considered preventable. So we lose 80% of these women that have died for something that could have been totally avoided. For example, and what makes it preventable? What exactly are these things that make it to where, well, if this had happened, this wouldn't have happened? For example, there's, the lack of specialized care in a lot of areas. There's inadequate communication among providers. There's a lot of missed or delayed diagnosis. How often is a women's pregnancy concern ignored? There we go. That's a good way to put it. Approximately 1 in 4, 25% to 20%. And now we're going to verify that first. I prefer to go to the CDC, but, depending on, I got to do some more research into that specifically. Many women report mistreatment. 1 in 5 of women report mistreatment while receiving maternity care. 1 in 3 of Black, Hispanic, and multiracial women reported mistreatment. That is almost 33%, a third of all the women pregnant. And almost half, 45% of women, held back from asking questions or sharing concerns during their maternity care, because a lot of women go to the doctor and try and bring up, something that they feel needs to be addressed, whether for peace of mind or because it could be an actual medical concern, and they're not always listened to, or things are brushed off because, well, that shouldn't happen in your case. So you get a lot of things like, let's see, Hispanic women, impact. Going back to my specific chart. Infection and severe bleeding. And this is the Commonwealth Fund that I'm getting these particular numbers from. Infection and severe bleeding related conditions were the leading non-COVID causes of maternal deaths. And now, depending on how big of a bleed, obviously, and how long this has been progressing, most bleeds, if not, a huge gaping wound that's just pouring blood, can be stitched up. You can get blood transfusions, and a lot of these things can be fixed in a hospital if they're addressed in the proper time. So, for example, 2022 to 2023, 17% of pregnancy-related deaths were because of severe bleeding. And then you've got infection or sepsis. That was 15%. 13% for cardiovascular conditions. Blood clots were 12%. These are what most doctors consider preventable deaths. That's why there's a whole chart for it. And it's so sad to see. Pregnancy-related mortality, a timeline. 63% of these deaths happen up to 1 year after birth. Where is our, after birth care? Why is there not more research in there? Fourth trimester. Mortality rates between 2019 and 2023. I mean, you got so many. So, to get back on topic, mortality rates. In 2023, black women were over 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes. It's 49.4 per 100,000 births. White women, it was 14.9. Mortality rates for women aged 40 and older were nearly 5 times higher than those under 25, which, in some cases is understandable. Even since I've been a kid, I can remember doctors and people I grew up with going, "Oh, you want to have a baby before you're 35 because, there's a lot of issues that can happen with that." And yet, who in their early 20s, besides people who really have their stuff together, are really, prepared financially and stably enough to have a child in that time frame? It doesn't always work that way. For a lot of women, it doesn't work that way. And, we've gone from, being one income situations to both people needing an income to make everything float. And you can't even everything out quickly anymore. It's hard. So you can understand that number, but you can also look at it and go, well, we all know that women are waiting longer to have children, so why are we not doing more research into later birth? Let's see, what are some more interesting facts? Why do women die? Severe bleeding, infections, high blood pressure, complications from delivery. And notice how complications from delivery is like the third point. Severe bleeding is the first. Why don't doctors catch severe bleeding in pregnancy? Let's see if there's an actual legit answer to this, because I don't want to rag on doctors, because at the end of the day, a lot of these people really do care about their patients. And a lot of doctors seem to be pretty frustrated about the lack of research or not being able to provide the care that they want to. I've heard several of my own doctors complain about insurance and how it blocks so many different things, or how, they want to give the best medication they can to actually solve an issue, and the patient can't afford $1,000 a month. So there's a whole bunch of frustrations, and I'm really hoping to dive pretty deep into that in a later episode. But to get back on topic, doctors may not always immediately detect or catch severe bleeding in pregnancy due to the high frequency of benign spotting. Wow. Okay. Early light or brown spotting is frequently associated with implantation, harmless cervical changes, or hormonal shifts, rather than a miscarriage or severe issue. So, implicit bias and communication gaps. This is the biggest thing. Studies indicate that patient symptoms, particularly those of women of color, may be dismissed or not taken seriously by medical professionals. I have heard that. Patients might not report bleeding immediately, or providers may not have the full picture. Bleeding is intermediate. But, I don't always trust the AI explanations, and if you... I'm not really getting an answer to my question, though. Bleeding during pregnancy, what's normal, what's not. So, this seems, from what I'm seeing, it's like any woman that gets pregnant, we go to our doctor, we try and get the brochure of things that we're supposed to pay attention about, the things that we should watch out for, and it always feels like the most minimum of information. And if you ask for more, I've experienced, not necessarily in pregnancy, but in other health-related issues, I know that I've experienced a doctor seeming to just get upset, and because I'm asking for more time for a better explanation, and they don't want to spend that time because they have 30 patients they have to see in one day. And every visit is going to be a 15-minute visit, or they're not going to see everybody and people are going to be mad. Which, that in itself is an issue. We'll get into that on another episode. But bleeding at any stage of pregnancy can trigger fear that something is wrong. But a lot of women have to do so much of their own research, and I know that I personally am, very busy a lot of the time, and sometimes it's just really, really hard to sit down for 30 minutes or even 20 minutes and look these things up, and, you get confused as just a normal person because you're like, well, how can I word this in a Google search that's actually going to give me the information that I need? And you sit there and you get frustrated and you stop researching because you just don't want to deal with it anymore. But it's so important to know these things. When to call your doctor. See, this whole thing, scroll, and then finding, but pay attention to symptoms. When to call your doctor if the bleeding is heavier than a period, accompanied by pain, or you notice clots or tissue. Okay, but if I bring this up to my doctor, are they going to listen? They're like, hey, this seems to be more. And they're like, are you sure? That's why I'm calling, is it not? I've run into issues, and that's part of the reason I wanted to do this specific episode today. There's also, I know guys, I am all over the place today. Y'all will have to forgive me. I hope I'm giving y'all a lot of interesting information at the very least. Oh my. Maternal mortality rate by race and Hispanic origin. Look at that. Between 2022 and 2023. Oh my. Wow. That's insane. Okay, we're gonna go into post-COVID. Okay, so let's filter in some hope into this. The National Institute of Health. And see, as you can see, I actually get like a lot of my information from there because, and you know, they're very honest about this. I do appreciate that. They talk about who actually funds them. And it's very nice to see that because I like openness when it comes to that particular thing. Who funds the Commonwealth? I just clicked out of what I meant to. There we go. So, leads in maternal mortality research with over $223 million in funding. Key initiatives like the Improve Initiative. So, they're research leaders and organizations. Now the question is, you know, what can we do? What can we do to help, you know, make this more apparent and get more attention on it? And I think, in all honesty, in my opinion, it's a combination of doing your own research and actually having these discussions with real living people. I can come onto YouTube or Twitch or any other platform and make a video, and hopefully maybe one day I'll reach a fair amount of people. But you can watch a video all day long and it still, you know, doesn't always hit as deep as it could. And I think the biggest thing is more women, more men, everybody that can be aware of this topic needs to be talking more about it. You know, I can talk to my friends, and maybe they'll talk to their friends. Maybe they'll talk to their doctors and bring up, hey, you know, I don't like how little research is done into these things. What can I, as a normal person, do about this? How can I tell the world that I want more research on this? How can I help see this research get done? So we'll look that up because, you know, I want an actual better answer for you. How can I influence change in the women's healthcare? See, this is a good one. I should have looked this up before I started this. I apologize. Okay, that's not exactly what I want. I want to know, like, who do I call? What petition can I sign? Honestly, it doesn't seem like, oh yes, legislators. Haha. Contact your local legislator. You know, I don't know how many people my age, younger or older, actually know that you can call your government office, your senators, your representatives. You can call that office and you can ask for change. These are the people that we voted to put into office to speak for us. Which means if you're not speaking to them, maybe they're not actually aware of what we all really want. And I think it's important to realize that you have the power. You can make the choice and say, I don't want it to be this way anymore. Let me do something about it. Because nothing will ever change with just one voice. takes hundreds, takes thousands, it can take a million to actually change things. And we all have to say it in one voice because, everybody has a different opinion. Everybody thinks in different ways, and that's all right. But I think we could all agree that we want better lives, and that allowing things like this to continue just it won't fix anything. It really won't. But, there is hope. There is a way to make things different, and I don't want anybody to forget that. And I am very excited to be doing this, even if nobody watches, because at the end of the day, I tried to say something. So, that's all I'm going to do for this particular video. I didn't go as much into the statistics as I wanted to. We'll have better and better, and it feels better to do this one. Haha. Okay. Y'all have a wonderful day, and I hope that every single one of you has something really good happen. See y'all next time.